All right, let's do this again. Part 2 of whatever this is. Definitely not a podcast. This is definitely not a podcast. Just Tony's 10-minute takes or something like that, which actually would be a good name for a podcast if this were a podcast. Let's talk. I want to talk today about a tweet that Mark Kaboly put up. I think it was like the morning after the game, and Mark Kaboly, who used to write for The Athletic, now he's like the Steelers guy on the McAfee show. I think while he is in between gigs, but anyway, prolific writer for the Steelers. A lot of you probably follow him. A lot of you probably saw this tweet. A lot of you are probably angry by this tweet. But I want to talk about the content of the tweet, and then I want to talk about like where I think he's right and where I think he's wrong. The tweet he put out Monday morning said, and I quote, "The Steelers aren't interested in winning with Justin Fields. They're interested in not losing with Justin Fields." Interesting. Oh, the Steelers are playing this ultra conservative, we're just going to run, punt in the second half. Like, we're not doing anything crazy. We took a 2-score lead, and we're going to take our ball and go home because of Justin Fields at quarterback. No, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. I do think it goes to the heart of the Russell Wilson versus Justin Fields debate, which is, and this is a legitimate question that I have, and I would love to talk to Kaboly about this. What is it about this offense that is going to be unlocked when Russell Wilson takes over? What are the things that this offense wants to do, is capable of doing, and is choosing not to do because Justin Fields is their quarterback right now? What are those things? Because I think that tweet that he put out, the Steelers aren't interested in winning with Justin Fields, they're interested in not losing with Justin Fields. I think you could replace Justin Fields with the offense. The Steelers aren't interested in winning with the offense. They're interested in not losing with the offense. Mike Tomlin has come into, really, I mean, this has been Mike Tomlin's MO for a while now. You know, going back, I think, all the way to like the 2019 season when they acquired Minka and they won with like Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. I think that was a light bulb moment for Mike Tomlin where he said, oh, if I just have a really, really good defense, don't turn the ball over, don't do anything stupid offensively, you can win a lot of games in the National Football League playing that way. And as I said, I think this year, as I joked about last year, like they're crystallizing that version of it. But I think what happened on Sunday, once again, was like that from a game script perspective, meaning how is the game kind of playing out? Are you ahead early? Are you behind early? Are you ahead by a lot? Are you behind by a lot? The Steelers had the most perfect game script for Mike Tomlin football that they've had in forever. This team took a 2-score lead in the first half. The first time they've taken a 2-score lead in the first half. The first time they did it last year, by the way, was like November. I mean, it was the Packers game. That's the first time last year with Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada that they were able to play this game script. And we just don't see, for a team that desires to play this kind of football, we just don't see this game script. So we don't get to see what does Mike Tomlin do with a 2-score lead in the first half. He shuts it down and he says, Bo Nix, go beat my defense in a situation where you got to throw the football. Go ahead and try. And we all saw what happened. So again, I go back to that original question of Justin Fields versus Russell Wilson. What could this offense be? What are the things about this offense that we are intentionally holding back from doing because of Justin Fields? I have a hard time believing that this offense is going to open it up once Russ gets in there. I have a hard time believing that. I think from Mike Tomlin's perspective, I don't believe that he thinks it was a perfect game on Sunday, but I don't think he's ultimately that displeased with the idea that this offense was able to move the ball early. They put some points on the board, and then we shut it down. They didn't do anything stupid, and we let the defense win the game for us. If Mike Tomlin could do that 17 times a year, I think he'd be pretty happy with that, That's how he desires to play. Now, I think there are long-term questions about, can you do that against some of the better teams in the National Football League? We shall see. And in those games, potentially, he could open it up more. And potentially, that's the case where you would say, okay, in those games, he's going to want to open it up more. He doesn't trust Justin in those games. That's where you'd want Russ, maybe. But, the downsides that we've always heard about with Justin is he's going to make stupid decisions, he's going to hold on to the ball too long, yada, yada, yada. He hasn't done any of those things. I mean, he hasn't turned the ball over yet. He's taken some sacks, but honestly, I would argue that the sacks that he's taken aren't necessarily all on Justin. So Yeah, I'm a little confused by what people's perception of like what this offense could potentially be. I started to say this last week of like, look, this offense is night and day better than it was a year ago. Night and day better than it was a year ago. But is it a good offense? No, I don't even know that. The problem is I don't even know that it's a weird thing to say. Like, they don't desire to be good. I mean, they obviously desire to be good, but they are putting what I think Mike Tomlin would determine to be necessary handcuffs on this offense to prevent them from beating themselves. You know, Mike Tomlin goes into a football game saying, we're not going to beat ourselves. So you better not beat yourself, because if you do, it's a W for us, right? And it is such a successful game. I mean, you look at, this is a football team a year ago that won 10 games, made the playoffs with Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph starting football games for them. Obviously, Mitch Trubisky did not contribute to a W, so maybe it was just with Kenny and Mason then. But regardless, right? I mean, like, you know, you didn't need to open up the offense at all to win 10 games last year. I don't know that I don't know that this team right now is in a position where they desire to open it up this much. And I think again, going back to the Justin Fields thing, as I said last week, I think Justin Fields could be a net positive for this offense. I think if you can keep Justin in this mode of like, just play within yourself, you don't need to take chances. Game manager, if you want to call that, like game manager who just happens to be one of the best running quarterbacks in the league. Awesome. Cool. Because as I talked about, like, where is this team going to generate big plays? Now, I was a little off in that assessment because George Pickens has become an absolute monster, a true number one through 2 weeks. And once again, like the naysayers, but Tony used 2 catches. He had 2 catches for 29 yards. And what I would say to those people who say, Tony, how could you say George Pickens is really lighting up this year when he only had 2 catches? I would say, you clearly didn't watch the game. You didn't watch the game. George Pickens might have only had 2 catches, okay? But the guy had one of the greatest catches, throw and catch, down the sideline against Patrick Surtain, one of the best corners in the league. That was an awesome play. That would have gone for 50 yards or whatever that play would have been. And then he had a touchdown catch that was taken away because of an OPI, a borderline OPI. But he should have finished the game with 4 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown. So, okay, and by the way, same thing against Atlanta, right? That guy should have finished the game with 6 catches, 120 yards, but big plays getting called back for penalty. I know that these plays are getting called back for penalty, and it is an issue of the offense. It's this offense could be far more effective and far more efficient if they stop beating themselves. And for a team that does desire to play a certain brand of football where it's we're not going to go out there and beat ourselves. Boy, the Steelers are, they're not beating themselves. They're not beating themselves in turnovers, which is the biggest thing. But they do need to start eliminating those penalties. Have got to go. But no, as far as big plays, if Pickens can play that well consistently, especially he went up against Patrick Surtain. Now again, didn't watch the All-22 this week. Didn't have a chance. I don't know how much they were rolling too high over to Pickens' side, but it was shocking to me that we're still doing this in week 2. It should have been. My thought going into this, and what worried me about this offense is it's very clear what this offense desires to do. We're gonna run the ball. Number 1, run the ball. That's what the Steelers team is gonna do. And then number 2 is we're gonna run some play action and we're gonna take some deep shots to George. So it's if you just roll your coverage to George's side, and then you stack the box. Doesn't seem like this is, rocket science to little old Tony over here. But again, I'm not a defensive coordinator. It was just shocking to me that George was able to continue to manufacture those kind of big plays. And if they can continue doing that throughout the year, I mean, if this team doesn't exactly have a number 2, you wouldn't describe the Steelers offense as a pick your poison type of offense, right? Now you could almost argue well, Tony, they can't roll a safety to Georgia's side and load the box yeah, you kind of could. But whatever. But okay, so maybe it is a pick your poison in that way of they're going to load the box. That's going to leave George some one-on-one situations. And okay, cool, right? I mean, I think with George taking the leap that he's taken year over year through 2 games, that does ease some of my worry about where is this team going to generate big plays. But I also think Justin is as big a part of that. Justin, first of all, is a very good deep ball thrower. And number 2, his legs are going to be another way this team's going to generate big plays. And no, it might not be 40, 50, 60-yard runs, but a 15, 20-yard run from Justin every once in a while is huge because, as I've talked about this offense, like, are we sure that they're going to be able to sustain 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives consistently? No. And I think you saw that in the second half. Like, no, they're not going to be able to do that, especially as teams start to, like, load the box and dare them to throw the football. Now, again, you can argue, like, from a game script perspective, the Steelers are more than happy to sit on it and just say, we don't care. We're up 13. We're up 10. You're not coming back. So good luck. But I think, one of the things that this team is going to need to do long-term is to continue to generate, even the kind of like, you have your chunk plays, your big plays, you also have medium plays, right? I mean, one of the best ways to move the football in this league is to not be like 12 play drive, convert a bunch of third downs. It's to not have third downs, right? I mean, it's to move the ball in chunks on first and second down, small chunks, 8 yards, 7 yards, 10 yards on those plays. And if they can start to do those kind of things, again, I'm going to feel as we go, I'll feel better and better about this offense. But I think right now, through 2 weeks, there's no alarm bell for me. I mean, I'm not on board with Kaboly. I'm fairly happy with where this offense is right now. With the normal asterisks in place. Like, this is not a good offense. I don't believe this offense is a top offense. I do think that they've made pretty big strides over where they were a year ago. Once again, though, with the asterisk that they were a historically bad offense. Once again, I was thinking about it this week. I don't know if you guys remember this. The Steelers didn't get a first down against against the Niners in week 1. They didn't get a first down until the third quarter of that game or something. And then against the Browns, I don't think they got a first down until the 2-minute warning, something like that, right? I mean, once again, anytime you compare apples to apples here, you go well, compare this offense to last year's offense. You're comparing it to the worst of the worst. So yes, the Steelers are a better offense this year. Are they where they want to be? Is this a finished product offense? No. But then we have to go to the other side of the ball because I do think defensively, and it's too early to make wide proclamations, but let's make one wide proclamation. The Steelers could be the best defense in football. Through 2 weeks, I think they are actually the second best defense in football by EPA per play. Again, I'm not a yards guy. I don't know where they rank yards. They might actually be 1 in yards. No, the Chargers are going to be 1 in yards because the Chargers played against, the Raiders and Panthers. So Chargers are going to be 1. But the Steelers might be 2. I think they're 3 in EPA per play through 2 weeks. Now, talking about the Chargers, look how easy their schedule has been. You could make the same argument for the Steelers, right? The Falcons might be the best offense that either the Chargers or Steelers have played. But I will say, the Falcons offense really does play into what the Steelers do well, which is you have an immobile quarterback against a really good pass rush. Okay, it's going to play into it. But regardless, the Steelers could very easily have a top defense in the league, and they certainly do through 2 weeks. We'll see what they do when they start to play the who's who of offenses. Again, there's also the idea that offenses just aren't good in 2024. I don't know that that's going to last forever, though. I want to see how this kind of plays itself out over the next couple weeks. I think we're maybe writing we're so early into 2024, and yet we're writing the eulogies for big time offense already after 2 weeks. Let's see how that plays out. But regardless, the point here is the Steelers have a very, very good defense again, a top defense. And so ultimately, if this defense is going to play this well, you're not going to ask a whole lot of this defense, especially in a world where offenses are. I mean, if what we're seeing right now, if what we're seeing through 2 weeks remains true, offenses globally are down. The Steelers defense is a top 3 unit in the National Football League. You're not going to ask a whole lot of this offense, right? I mean, the Mike Tomlin theory of just don't screw it up for us offense. Go out there, score early, shut it down, let the defense do things, let the defense win. That's going to carry this team pretty far if things remain true. Now, again, we shall see, but I'm really impressed defensively with the back half of this defense. The secondary has been, to me, the most surprising part of this. I think we knew from a front seven perspective, certainly the edge rushers were going to be good. Maybe some questions on the defensive line, specifically around Cam, because Cam's getting older, and it's Cam wasn't as effective in 2023 as he's been in the past, especially as a pass rusher. Still a very good run defender, and still a very good run defender this year. he's playing really good football. Larry Ogunjobi's playing the best football he's played in a Steeler uniform. Tomlin called that out early on in the season, saying, like, Larry's as healthy as he's been. And so, one thing kind of leads to another, where he's had a full offseason, where he hasn't been injured. He's playing really good football. I don't think Benton's played his best football yet, but that hasn't held anything back. Same as I would say with Patrick Queen, right? I talked all about this Patrick Queen stuff last week, and I'm glad, like, it is starting to get some, like, attention. I was like, yeah, PQ not exactly playing good football, but again, like, PQ not playing well, but it hasn't held anything back. And I think part of the reason for that is that this defense and the secondary is playing so well. Guys like Dante Jackson and Deshaun Elliott, I mean, they have been monster additions in that defense and at positions that they really needed. The upgrade from Levi Wallace or Patrick Peterson to Dante Jackson, I mean, it's night and day stuff. And again, I understand that this team hasn't exactly been tested offensively, right, from a really good offense yet. But still, I mean, the through 2 weeks, Dante Jackson does not look like a Levi Wallace type player. I mean, he looks like a solid number 2 corner. And Joey Porter, who was already shadowing guys last year, and like we knew he was an ascending player. He's doing the same thing he was doing at the end of last year. I mean, he's very good at shadowing the number 1 guy. Yes, he's two-handed. Yes, he's going to get called for penalties too much, but you can live with that considering the plays that he makes and the way that he's able to, be a force against their number 1 guy that moves the ball another direction. And then Deshaun Elliott as a safety coming in, playing downhill right now. He's been great. And again, having that 3 safeties now of KZ, Minka, and Deshaun Elliott now has allowed Terrell Austin and Mike Tomlin to kind of be a little more multiple in that secondary and move Minka around a little more. I mean, you have to be thrilled with where the Steelers have played defensively through 2 weeks. And that takes us to this game on Sunday, which is a game I am so looking forward to. By the way, the slate of games this week, so much fun. It's too bad the Steelers have a 1 o'clock game. I almost would prefer that the Steeler game were in prime time or like at some other time so I could focus on some of the other big matchups in the league. Like Texans-Vikings, for whatever reason, like that's a fun football game. I'm excited about that one. Eagles-Saints, yeah, that's kind of a cool game. Lions-Cardinals, that's going to be a fun football game. The Steelers will be playing at 1 alongside some of those other teams. So let's talk about that Chargers game real quick because this is big boy football. This is the first time the Steelers I think are going to really get tested by a team. What I like about this one is, again, the Steelers want to play this kind of smash mouth physical football. We're going to run the ball. We're going to play hard-nosed defense. We're going to shut you down. The Chargers come in. It's like, no, we are also going to do those exact same things. And I love the stylistic matchup there. I said on Twitter, this is like a Big Ten matchup. This is Michigan and Iowa. And I love the stylistic matchup here. Now, I think for both teams, because game script is such a big part of the way both teams have played thus far, game script is really going to, I'm so excited to see how, from a game script perspective, this plays out. Do the Chargers get an early lead? And does that force the Steelers into this kind of, we do have to open it up a little more? And are there really things that they don't want Justin doing? And even in a situation where they have to open it up, they don't fully open it up for Justin? Or can the Steelers continue what they did last week and move the football and cut down on some of those penalties and they take an early lead? And how does Jim Harbaugh pivot? Obviously, Justin Herbert, a supremely talented quarterback in a system where they have him being more of a game manager, and how does that play itself out? And I love the matchup with the Steelers' run defense against a Chargers offensive line. Joe Alt has been so good for them. Excited to see that matchup. TJ versus Joe Alt. I'm excited to see. Conversely, like the Steelers' offensive line against Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa. The Steelers really haven't faced a true pass rush yet, and obviously a lot of what Arthur's doing is kind of preventing a true pass. There aren't a lot of true pass sets or whatever you would say. But I'm excited to see this Steeler team try to match physicality against that Chargers front. So, I mean, this is a really exciting football game. Obviously, it's a home opener for the Steelers as well. And I think it presents some interesting matchups for the Steelers because you always want to see good on good. And what I like about this matchup is I don't know that the Chargers are actually a good football team. Then again, I'm not sure where the Steelers are going to kind of fall in the pecking order in the NFL. But what I love is that this is good on good when it comes to the style of play, right? The Steelers desire to be a team that can go out there, punch you in the mouth in the run game, and go out there defensively and shut everything down. And the Chargers play the exact same brand of football. And so let's see how good on good works from that perspective. Super excited to see it. Thank you all for watching today. I'll see you next week.